that first experiment was pretty cool, wasn't it? So for the second experiment, we're still going to use the eggs that we were using before. And so what you're going to need is you're going to need some eggs, some water, some Epsom salt, some glue, a paintbrush, and some toothpicks. So to begin with, what we're going to do is we're going to take the egg, and on the pointy end of the egg, we're going to crack the pointy end of the egg, and then we're going to get all the insides out of the egg. And you can always ask your parents if they're planning on doing some baking or something, because then you can use the eggs for that. All right, so once we got the insides out, we want the hole in our egg to be about the size of a quarter. So we're gonna just continue to crack away the shell a little bit until we have about a quarter size opening in our shell. And then what we're gonna do is we're going to take our finger, and with the membrane that we saw on our last experiment, we wanna take that membrane out of the inside of the egg because it's still there. So you're just gonna run your finger through the inside of the egg, and you're slowly going to peel that out from the inside of the egg. Once we have the membrane out, what we're going to do is we're going to carefully wash the inside of the egg out with some water, and then we're going to tip it upside down and let it dry completely. So while we're waiting for our eggs to dry, we're going to go ahead and boil our 1 cup of water, and once that gets boiling, then we'll remove it from the heat, and then we'll start adding our Epsom salt. Alright, so once our eggs have dried and we have our water and our salt mixture all together, what we're going to do is we're going to take some glue and our paintbrush, and we're going to put a thin layer of glue on the inside of the shell. So what I do is I just put a little bit of glue at the bottom of the egg, and then I'm going to take my paintbrush and then I'm going to brush it all around the inside of the egg. Make sure a nice thin layer is all over the inside of our egg. All right, once we have the glue on the inside of our egg, we're going to take some of that Epsom salt that we just put in our water that we boiled, and we're going to sprinkle that on the inside of the egg. And this is so then when we put our solution in our egg, that it'll have something to stick to. So we're going to sprinkle some of that in our egg so it'll stick to the glue, and then we're going to wait for that to dry a little bit before we put our water in there. So we're going to do the same thing with all of our eggs, some glue and some Epsom salt. Alright, so after we've got the glue and the salt in the eggs and that has dried, we're going to want to put the eggs somewhere where they can be upright, so the holes that we created are facing up. I've put them just back into the egg carton. That seems to be the easiest thing, but if you maybe have some eggs left over or something, you can put them in a different container just so that the hole that we've created is up. So then we're going to take our Epsom salt and water solution, and we're going to take a ladle or a spoon, and we're going to slowly fill up our eggs that we've created. You want to fill them up pretty much all the way. So once we've got them full of our salt and water solution, we can take some food coloring and put a couple drops in each egg, and then we're going to take one of the toothpicks that we have, and then that is what we'll use to stir our food coloring around. Since our holes aren't that big, we're going to want to use a toothpick so then we can stir it around, make sure it gets in our solution. Alright, so after that's done, what we're going to do is we're just then going to let these eggs sit. We're going to let the water evaporate out of the eggs that we've created, and then see what we're left with after that. Alright, so it's been about a week since we've had the saltwater solution sitting inside of our eggs. So now it's time to take a look at what happened and why this experiment is called egg geodes. So if we look on the inside of our eggs, we see that there's some nice crystallization forming. And if you were to get a rock geode, you'd see something similar on the inside. Maybe not in all these fantastic colors, but you'd see something pretty similar on the inside. And with rock geodes, how this happens is that minerals get inside of the rock, and then the outside of the rock starts to harden, keeping those minerals on the inside, and then they crystallize over time. What we did was we put the salt with the glue on the outside of, or the inside of the egg, and then we put the salt water in there, and as time went on, the water evaporated, but because there was so much salt in the water that the salt ended up staying while the water evaporated. So then we were left with these nice crystals. And I think it's important to mention that I did this several times to get a perfect looking crystal, and it just all depends on how much salt you put in your salt water, because if you don't put enough salt in there, the water will evaporate and then you won't be left with any crystals. But if you put too much salt, then it'll just be one giant piece of salt and you won't get the cool crystals. So definitely science, trial and error. Try it a few times and see that you get the perfect amount of salt in your salt water to get these nice cool looking egg geodes. Alright, so I got one more fun experiment for you guys. Maybe tomorrow you might be finding some of these around, and so this could be an experiment you do after you've found all your Easter eggs. All you'll need is a plastic Easter egg, some Alka-Seltzer tablets, and some water. All you're going to do is you're going to put one of the Alka-Seltzer tablets into the bottom part of the egg, and then you're going to fill the other half with some water, and you're going to close it, and then this is what's going to happen. Now, why does this work? So the Alka-Seltzer and the water, if you were to just put an Alka-Seltzer tablet in a glass of water, you'd see that it would start to bubble. Now these bubbles are carbon dioxide. When you put the Alka-Seltzer tablet and the water in an egg and then close it, that carbon dioxide doesn't have anywhere to go, so the pressure builds up in the egg, which then results in the top of the egg blowing off. Now make sure that you have an adult helping you with this, because you need quick hands, but you also want to make sure you stay far enough away so it doesn't pop off and hit somebody. Hope you guys have a great Easter, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next week.